You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we're here to wrap up the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Australia, they claimed the spoils, winning out 3-1 in the end after a bit of a ding-dong at the SCG. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Max Rowe-Brown. How are you doing, Max? Good to have you back. Or no, you were with us last time. Good to see you again.
I was. Yes, well, good to see you again as well, Jack. Yes. Happy New Year. It's first pod of 2025, isn't it? So, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to 2025, everyone. Doesn't start till you've heard from the Cricket Podcast. I've heard.
No, yeah. Welcome. Happy New Year, all. Happy New Year to you, Ross. You're also here. Welcome back. You weren't on the last one, so I can say that.
Yeah, we can. Happy New Year to everybody. It's always nice when the new year starts, as cricket's always meant to go on, isn't it? The Australians' ego completely inflated by a win, and then them kind of doing revisionist history, saying this is the best series of all time. It's delightful.
We'll get into all of that. We will be discussing the goings on at the SCG. There's no more permutations for the World Test Championship table, so we can park that multi-week segment. Maybe we'll get round to Afghanistan, Zimbabwe, and South Africa v Pakistan, or maybe we won't. Before we get to all of that, though, Ross, who sponsors this podcast?
Manscaped.
And who are Manscaped?
They look after your balls. They provide and your face
Just
and
the
everything,
balls?
really. Yeah, true. They've got a bunch of shaving equipment, or Cripmunk for the people who are fans of the league. And if you use code the Cricket Pod, you'll get 20% off and free shipping.
That is true. Yeah, head over to manscaped.com. You can find that link in the show notes, by the way. Manscaped.com. Use the code CricketPod for 20% off plus free shipping. Max, as you're here, you can do the honours. Can you talk us through what happened at the SCG? And we'll start with that. Then we'll talk about the series and other stuff.
I can indeed. So, fifth test, SCG, simple equation, apart from the bit with the World Test Championship final. Simple equation in the Border-Gavaskar Trophy, however. India needed to win, to get a draw in the series and retain the trophy. Australia needed to win or draw to win the series. Easy. So what would you do in the last test of a series if you needed to win or draw, lads? You'd put out an absolute road and make sure there's absolutely no chance of losing. What did Australia do? Well, they went one better. They put out an absolute dynamite explosion landmine of a green seamer, because what they realised, boys, that I think shows why Australia are better than everyone else at cricket and that they are the great thinkers of cricket, is that they knew that Jasprit Bumrah was on his last legs. They knew that he'd done too much. He'd been carrying the entire India side on his back with the ball and as well with the bat, because he ended up in the first India innings scoring the highest, second highest score of the series by an Indian captain, or the highest, I think, by an Indian captain in this series, and the second lowest ever in a series. So that went well. But no, they knew that he was done. Any more bowling and he would break, and he did break. And what that meant was that Australia had 3 seam bowlers and India had none. And then a green seamer is the way forward. That was the logic. It makes perfect sense, and that's all there is to it. So what happened? Scott Boland did what he does normally at the SCG. He took a load of wickets for not many runs. India were 185 all out, indebted to Rishabh Pant for a quick. Well, it wasn't that quick, but it was 40 to get them to any sort of vague score. And then they came firing back because Bumrah wasn't injured at this point. But actually, no, that's not fair, because they all did the job, didn't they? The India bowlers. The pitch was still spicy. Australia struggled, and 181 with a 50 from debutant Webster to save their skin. So it was a second innings shootout for the two sides, and Boland shot India to pieces. He took 6 wickets in the second innings, and it was a fairly easy chase for Australia in the end, partly because Jasprit Bumrah had broken down, and all they had left was Mohammad Siraj and Lottery Krishna, who, in fairness, took 3 wickets and did all right after the first couple of overs. I don't know if you saw the first few overs of that in Australia chase. They were some of the worst overs I've ever seen professional cricketers send down. I think the second ball went for 5 wides. Prashant Krishna threw in 5 wides as well a couple of overs later. You're defending 161 and you start by giving the other team a 30-run lead. head start. Probably not the way to go, but that's what happened. And after some more argy-bargy in the game, which we will get to in a bit, it was, plain sailing. Head and Webster did the job, and a comfortable 6-wicket win to wrap up the series for Australia.
Yeah. Lots to talk about in this test. Probably not as much as the hour-long special we did on the MCG Max, but it was another action-packed game. Pretty short test, though. I think it's the shortest test at the SCG for 140 years, Ross. Should we start with pitch watch? What was going on there? Why did the Australians do this?
Max has explained the perfect logic, hasn't he? Maybe the groundsman just got the wrong memo. Maybe he was just like, "Oh, Australia are behind" or whatever. But it didn't really matter. Did you genuinely think that India were going to win this test match? I thought they had absolutely no chance of winning. Even though they're
yeah. I mean, if we're talking big picture stuff, then not really. Especially once it became clear that Bumrah wasn't going to be available for the second innings. I mean, I know we play football, and Ross, you broke your finger, and you can show people on YouTube that now while I talk.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, no, it was pointing in the wrong direction and everything. And we were talking about it in the UK afternoon, so a few hours before play. And I think our basic conclusion when we were talking with the lads about the game was that India needed to put on another 100 runs from where they were going into day 3. And I don't think anyone really expected that was going to happen with Jadeja and Washington at the crease, and that was assuming that Bumrah wasn't available to bowl. Had Bumrah been available to bowl, I mean, you never know. I don't think 160 was enough. I think they needed 200 still, because Bumrah can't bowl literally all the overs. Like that is that when they tried it, didn't they? And look what happened. He went to hospital. And
we did. I think we did say that on the very first bit, Jack. Test match. You said how can Australia stop Bumrah? And we did say you've got to get Miles in those legs. You've just got to get him because he's got an injury record. He can't do everything. I kind of thought the pitch was like it was quite entertaining. And I thought that Australia we've got a better seam attack and our batters are going to be better equipped to deal with this. And it turned out to be the case.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to put it in a nutshell, that probably is correct. Max, there's a lot to talk about in this. How would you like to do it? We did it chronologically for the last test. Do you want to do chronologically, or is there a moment that you would like to start with? I think we sort of covered. Maybe it would have been different if Bumrah had not been injured. But that's not the most interesting conversation topic, if I'm honest.
No, why don't we go to Scotty B? The
Scotty B.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, his
record at
the SCG is obscene. I think the average, it must average about 8 or 9 at the SCG. I think it's an unbelievable record that he's got, and England seem to be the only team who've taken the fight to him, and we've seen a bit of the way Sam Konstas played against Bumrah, which has kind of worked a bit in like throwing him off, and I'm wondering why someone hasn't taken a similar approach to Scott Boland.
Do you honestly think?
And that was semi-successful.
Do you honestly think they could have done that on this pitch? I mean, like, when England did it to him, it was on a fairly flat surface. Yeah, but back in the Ashes, and then they did it to him again. I think which two tests did he play? Edgbaston and Lords, before they ditched him. When he played at the Oval in the World Test Championship final, he was again a pretty big factor in that game. Arguably, I think man of the match. Travis Head got a bunch of runs. They normally give it to a batter, but I think Boland picked up some pretty crucial wickets, if memory serves. So I do, to answer your point, like what can you do against Boland? I don't know. Maybe he's just the best bowler of all time.
Is that a viable strategy, right? Because I mean, the pitch is spicy, should we say? But I just wonder whether India could have tried something, because he is that line and lengths bowler, isn't he? He's like on the spot, and in a particular occasion like this, let the pitch do the rest, and there was plenty for the pitch to be able to do. It was a question that came to my head about whether there was maybe something different that India could have done, because they've got the players to do it, right? Jaiswal, Shubman Gill's a stroke maker, Rishabh Pant in there. They've got
They
the
could have
talent
picked some
in that
batsmen.
lineup. Give it a go.
They could have picked some more batsmen. They didn't need 6 bowling options and 2 spin bowlers, did they? Like, this is just like Gautam Gambhir, Rohit Sharma have had a nightmare here. It was an awful team
Rohit Sharma,
selection.
I think that's half to. He didn't play, did he?
He dropped
But
himself.
It's a
He
team selection.
magnanimously
Right?
dropped himself.
They lost this game before they even walked on the pitch.
He
It's
didn't
that old
magnanimously
one.
drop himself. I mean, look, this is all over the place. So let's do this slightly chronologically. We can start with the news before the test, which was that Rohit Sharma was dropped. And you can massage that however you want, but he was dropped. Like, I sincerely don't think that this was.
No, I'm not buying that for a second. But it's what they said.
Rohit Sharma's.
It's
Joe
Joe
Pesci,
Pesci.
isn't it?
It's Joe Pesci in The Departed. That's what it was. He's got whacked.
Joe Pesci isn't in
Goodfellas.
the side.
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas. Yeah.
Goodfellas. Close.
So he's dropped. If you're looking at the India team, and we talked about this, Max, I think on the last podcast. I don't know. Bearing in mind the limitations that they've got in terms of who is available. If Mohammad Shami's available, you play Mohammad Shami. I don't know really what else they can do besides pick the team that they picked here. Arguably, you get rid of Washington Sundar, but you don't do it for another batter. You would do that and bring in Harshit Rana because, like, obviously you're going to need a seam bowler and not like 120 kph Nish Kumar Reddy. Or did he even bowl? Well, he did. He bowled the last over of the game, didn't he? Washington Sundar, 1 over for 11. So I think there's like a little bit of a poor selection there, but I don't know really what they can do. And if you're looking at like the pitch that is laid out and the bowling attack they're up against, and we said this on the last podcast, like the difference between Bumrah and Pat Cummins, Australia's best bowler, is big. Like, there is a big difference at the moment between the quality of those two. But the difference between Cummins and what Mitchell Starc, Australia's worst seam bowler, is also it isn't very big. Like that's quite a tight margin. They're both pretty good. Boland's sitting somewhere in the middle, also pretty good. And then there's a massive chasm before you get to Siraj. And like Siraj he bowled okay for an overseas bowler. And he bowled okay in this test match, I thought. But like, really, yeah, let's be honest here, nowhere near as good as Boland or the Cum Dog. And so if you look at it from like what were India supposed to do prior to the test, I think they probably come up with something near the team that was best placed to get a result. Their one wild card who could have done something to win the game breaks down, can't bowl, and that's it. That's talking us through. You know, I mean, really, most of the key points. I was surprised, Max, when you brought up Boland. I thought you were going to give him some credit. 10 for 76 across the test. Instead, you were like, "Oh, England were good when they smashed him around."
I thought I'd go for the Ross approach. You know, I'd mix things up a bit.
So in the spirit of some chronological stuff, Boland looms large over this test for us. 4 for 31 in the first innings, 6 for 45 in the second innings. He did bowl well, didn't he? He is good. Is he as good as an average of 17.66? Now you can do it. You can do the thing where you say he's rubbish.
I think you only beat what's in front of you, right? And when you're someone with a lot of experience and someone who's just got a decent control over his craft, like he's got a very limited role. Scott Boland, like he's not there to do things that are different. He's there to literally bowl line and length and then bowl at the stumps and then take wickets. He's not in there bowling bounces. He's not in there bowling variations. He's got very, very clear role definition and he's made to feel very welcome in this Australia side and is a vital cog to it. I think the person who he's replaced in that lineup is Josh Hazlewood, right? Josh Hazlewood's been injured. Mm-hmm. And I think he's more than stepped up into the shoes of Josh Hazlewood. So it's kind of nice to see, really, on the whole.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think he's probably ahead, maybe, of Hazlewood in terms of the Australian pecking order after this match. What did he pick up for the series? I think it was 21 wickets.
21, yeah. Average
Not.
a little bit worse than Jasprit Bumrah in the end, but not much. Like 13.
Yeah.
And that's
That's
why he's
bad.
going to end up playing in the IPL this season.
I heard that he has actually played in the IPL. I didn't know this.
I shared it in the Discord. He played for
Yeah.
the rising Pune Supergiants, whatever they're called.
Yeah. So
There's a fun fact for our India fans: if they it's like Boland's never played in the IPL, so maybe he'll play again.
Maybe he'll make a return. Australia, on the other hand, so we talked about India a lot here. Australia obviously won the series. They made one change coming into this match by Webster, and it was an inspired change, wasn't it, Max? As he scored runs in both innings, took some catches. I believe also picked up a debut Test wicket as well.
There's a drop or two off his bowling as well.
Yeah, he looked like a pretty organised cricketer, didn't he? Where's he been? 31 years old. Rocks up, does this.
He's been busily putting together a body of work for Tasmania. Maybe they haven't heard of him because he was stuck on an island south of Australia. Maybe that was the problem.
Maybe they thought he was from New Zealand. That's how they was described.
And they
were like, "Oh, well, we can't pick him. He's a Kiwi." And then someone checked his passport. And like, "Oh shit, we've been playing Mitch Marsh before."
The issue he's obviously got is that there are two very similar players in the pecking order ahead of him in Australia. You've got the Bison, of course, the nicest man in cricket, and Cameron Green, who was the young hot thing off the ranks a few years ago, and injured at the moment, and has allowed Bo Webster to come in and take his chance. He's had a really solid sort of couple of years with the bat in the
Shield.
Sheffield Shield for Tasmania, and sounds like he's earned his chance. And he came in and absolutely right, Jack, looked like a very organised cricketer indeed. And the size of him, my God. So we don't need more Australian giants in that slip cordon. That is ridiculous.
Slightly weirdly, he bats in a fairly similar way to Kane Williamson. Like everything's played really late and sort of hit through point or behind.
You look at someone like that and you're just expecting it to be like pure muscle, aren't you?
He does have a pretty mean looking pull shot. Like it's not all like that serious stuff, but
serious levers there.
His go-to scoring method does seem to sort of be to nerdle around, and it is a little bit incongruent. I thought there were vital runs in the first innings. I mean,
very, very important.
We were talking about how ultimately, Australia ran away with this test and won it pretty comfortably, and how Bumrah was a factor in that. Bumrah was a factor in the first innings, right? Like he was bowling. He bowled. It was a bit of a curtailed appearance by him.
Yeah, but he'd
done some early damage
straight up.
Yeah, and tricky situation to come in. Steve Smith's out. Australia are 5 for 96. You're making your debut. You're half the runs behind the opposition at that point in time. If you are Bo Webster, I think it was half the runs. Or did he bat 6? No, he batted 6, didn't he? So he came in a little. He actually came in a much worse situation. 4 for 39.
39 for 4.
Here's your first test match, mate. How about it?
Yeah, not easy at all. And to finish up on 57, or to be out on 57 rather, big impact, I would say. Big impact, Ross.
Yeah, huge impact. And I think it's kind of an interesting bit on Australian selection policy under the Cumdog. They seem to go with the experience side of things. If you look on Bazball's very much you pick children because they've got good attributes and see what happens, right? Very exciting, but not entirely reliable. Where the Australian kind of approach is, well, Scott Boland picked, an awful lot of experience, comes in, does very well over the last few years where he's been picked up. Bo Webster, kind of a similar ilk now. He had Adam Voges before that. And so it's kind of a tried and tested kind of moniker for him.
The guy,
you say that, but Scott Boland,
19-year-old open the day.
Well, I was going to say Scott Boland and Bo Webster.
But that's not a cricket selection. That's not a cricket selection. The Konstas thing is a vibe selection. That is mental.
Yeah, how could that be any more Bazball?
It's mental. I love
Yeah.
it. Like it's completely.
You're arguing
Let's
against
rile
yourself.
up the Indians. I'm not. I'm saying the selection
You
policy.
are. You've just said Australia. They have a selection
Right.
policy where they pick old
Ross,
men, and now
think
you're like,
about
oh,
it.
it's all
Australia,
about vibes.
Australia are
proper cricketer.
copying
He's not a
England.
proper cricketer at the moment, is he? Konstas was picked to rile some people up. He was like, "Who's going to get underneath the skin of these motherfuckers?
Actually,
and let's try and
that is
beat
the-
them." And
that is the
they
Australian
didn't pick
way.
him for the they didn't pick him for the runs. They were just like, "Oh my god, this 19-year-old, he's the most annoying person on the planet. He's going to wind these guys up." And literally, absolutely
It's
took
genius.
it to him. And yeah, literally,
Masterstroke.
every Indian now hates Konstas. He's never going to get an IPL deal, and he's literally sitting there going, "I've won the BGT."
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe you've eventually got to the nub of the Australian.
Yeah, he's
selection
still
policy there,
wrong
which
though, Ross, because Scott Boland and Bo Webster both got high release points.
What's Sam Konstas's release point?
Who knows?
Don't know that one, do you? But I do. I'd like to, Ross. I think that is kind of the Australian selection policy: is pick a guy who's done it for years in Shield cricket, or pick the most annoying, aggressive person that you can find. Like they're the only two ways into the Australian team: to be like an absolute loose cannon, or to have.
I mean, I'd love to go for a beer with Konstas. I would love to go for a beer with him. I reckon really
Can he
good.
drink? Is he even old enough?
I reckon he's a really good guy I'd like to go out with. Scott Boland, don't want to go for a drink with him.
I think the other way around.
Oh, really?
I reckon the other way around.
I reckon Scott Boland gets the first round in every time.
Yes.
Yeah, I reckon he's
100%
designated driver. That's the vibes I get from Scott Boland.
No, I think I don't. Konstas is the kind of guy who has one shot of Mickey Fins, and then like tries to assault somebody at the bar.
I've not heard of Mickey Fins in maybe 15 years.
Apple sours, you know. I don't see that happening. I mean, the people there's Konstas mania in Australia at the moment, and some people are like, I've seen grumblings from people suggesting that maybe Cricket Australia are exploiting him a little bit. I don't know about that, to be honest. I feel like
he's loved it.
I feel like he's
Yeah,
I
he was
think he's
getting
got
involved,
out there.
wasn't he?
Well, I don't think that the Australians in the dressing room were like, right, 19-year-old, what we need to do is get a few more clicks on TikTok, and you're young, so can you go have a Barney? Can you go and slag off Jasprit Bumrah, like ramp him a few times, call someone a dickhead on the field, you know, do loads of stuff that Dave Warner would have done back in the day, so that we can market you and increase our reach on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube Shorts, whichever has the greatest penetration in the Indian market. I think he's more or less, it seems, the author of his own destiny when it comes to the decisions he's made. Now, you might say, and you might be right, that some of the behaviour, some of the antics in this test match, riling up Bumrah, and then obviously he gets Khawaja out the next ball, and just generally being a bit in your face, you might say that crosses some line. But I don't think it's a case of like Cricket Australia exploiting him as an individual. I think
some grand child trafficking case.
Yeah, this seems to be who he wants to be, and I'm there for it. Like, I quite enjoy it.
Come on, Max. Come on.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We had the whole section on that 13-year-old that was picked up by Rajasthan Royals, didn't we? Like, if that isn't child trafficking, I don't know what is. Like, auctioning a child.
Why don't we ask Elon? He'll know.
For $200,000. No, Elon Musk is a friend of the podcast. I'm not sure if you were here for this, Max, but Ross and I have made an editorial decision to align ourselves with the Donald Trump administration.
Okay.
We're big into Saudi.
Yeah.
Like,
we're big into part of expanding the global game of cricket.
Yeah.
No, this is about money.
Okay.
So we're big into Elon and Tesla and the other things he does. Doge. Space and Doge. We're big into Donald Trump. Very happy when he won the election. Konstas, I feel like he's the sort of person that could accidentally be Secretary for Defense for America. Like, if Donald Trump is into cricket, I think he would like what Konstas is bringing to the table. I can see him getting a tap for a White House government position.
I do think it's fair to say from Konstas'
Saudi,
defense,
yeah,
he didn't he didn't stoke the flames originally. Like Kohli was the one who barged into him and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
but that
it
was
is
MCG. In this test, he stoked the flames. So there was one
Yeah,
ball
but-
left in the day. He turns around,
but
has a
yeah.
pop at Bumrah, like that. You know that. If there was one moment in this test that was like truly memorable, that was it. I'm glad we did get it.
I mean, the
although
Fox coverage
Kale
of him
Rule
getting out
did
was
drop
great.
catch.
I mean, the Fox coverage of Konstas' shot, where they've literally got him his body position and his head's like up in the clouds because he's absolutely woohooed through the line. Fantastic. More Konstas.
Have we missed anything in this test?
We haven't done the out not out. Kohli's first ball in the first innings.
He was out.
Well, I think it can be given either way. Is my
I mean, I agree with you, Ross.
Yeah,
I also think it was
I don't
out.
really
But at the time when I saw it, I was like, that is so obviously out. How have you missed it? And since like speaking to various people, there's quite a variety of opinions on whether it was out. So I guess I can understand why it wasn't given. But it looked out.
I'm glad it wasn't given out. But I do think it was out. Because I like the controversy. This whole like BGT and Ashes. I'm here for the entertainment value, and
one thing I would say
is entertainable.
One thing I would say about this, like, you want that sort of thing to happen, and then the game to be won by a narrow margin, so that people argue about it more. One thing that this series has lacked, and we need to move on to this now. So why not? Like, well batted Rishabh Pant. There was a moment where India looked like they could win. There we go. We covered the last two talking points from at the SCG. There wasn't really a moment, was it? Winviz said India had a 26%
Pant was out.
No, they don't.
Before Pant was out, there was a sniff, wasn't there? If Bumrah wasn't injured,
he was.
So facts. Carry on.
Can we just go? That just one bit. People hated Rishabh Pant getting out a couple of Test matches ago because he was playing the way he was in this. And now the Indians are going, well, he's our saving grace. He's been our best player. Like, make your bloody mind up, lads. Anyway,
it's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I agree. The one thing the series has missed, that's what I was going to say. We've had some good controversial moments, better controversial moments, I think, than in the average series. Maybe some of the all-time top controversial moments or exciting moments, but none of the tests have actually been any close. There have been moments where it looked like some of the tests could go one way or the other, but
then they just didn't, did they?
Really? They've been absolute hammerings.
The middle lane.
Yeah, I'm just going to go through the results. So India won the first test by 295 runs. Not too much controversy in that match, but there was India being bowled out for 150 and a mini meltdown. And then actually after the game, the Australian press were like, we're going to lose 5-0. Like there was
they went full England
meltdown. There was an epic meltdown. The second test, Australia won by 10 wickets. Not really close. Chased a target of 19 in the second innings. There was a moment or two, I think. No, actually, I don't even know if there was. There was a mini moment, I think, at the end of day one where Labuschagne and McSweeney had to bat through 10 difficult overs when it got dark. And if Australia had lost 4 wickets in those 10 overs, that game could have been. And that was basically as close as that test got. Third test, that was rained off, but Australia were hammering India.
Yeah,
really for most of that. There was the weird declaration set up, and then ultimately it came down to like 270 required or 50 overs or something like that.
But
so
they would never have declared
at
that if there was any chance of enough play being had for India.
Yeah.
Because you saw exactly the same thing. Well, not exactly the same thing, but you saw what they did in the next test when there was an actual chance that they might lose the game, where they batted for as long as they possibly could because they were scared.
Pretty much, yeah. MCG, Australia win by 184 runs. Not an outright hammering.
Got close to a draw until India imploded.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what I mean. Like it's 184 runs. That margin sounds bigger than it was. That's a thrashing margin, and actually it was a good win for Australia. Australia played better cricket throughout the test. Probably deserved to win. A little bit of rain made the draw more likely than it potentially should have been. Best team won. And then this test, Australia win by 6 wickets. And again, there are mini moments and there are what ifs, but but really a 6-wicket win chasing, that's fairly comfortable. You'd probably back yourself to get another 100 runs if you absolutely had to from that scenario, if you're Australia. So controversy tick, closeness of matches, I think 6 out of 10. Some of the matches were close during the match, but I want to see...
They were competitive, but the results were never close.
Yeah. So where does this stand in the annals of cricketing history, Ross? That's the question.
It's not even the
Style
best
control, damage, and aggression. Aggression.
It's not even the best. It's not even the best BGT in the last decade. Like when India won,
5 years.
that was miles
6 years.
better. Like
Yeah.
just from a cricketing perspective, like the Australians are saying it because they won, but India beating Australia with a C team where they've been decimated by injuries, and there was like unbelievable backs to the walls performances. That was miles better.
And
Like,
it had as
better.
much aggression as well, right? Can't wait to get you to the Gabba, Ash.
Yeah,
Your friends don't even like you. All that crap.
Exactly. Like that was so much better. But again, what has worried me a little bit is the toxic masculinity of Australians cricket pundits.
Why has that worried you?
Because they're all over the shop. They don't know. They've used to be. They had a real straight line to who they were as a person. Now they don't know which way's up. Like literally after the first Test match, like it was insane. Their reaction, like absolutely, like they thought the world was going to end. They were crying on TV. They were blaming everybody. Now, a few tests later, they're just like rejoice. Well done, everybody. This is the best moment of our lives. I don't like that swing. That is too much swing in a personality for an Australian ex-male cricketer.
I feel like that's the Australian vibe, I'm afraid.
Really?
I think they're... I don't know what it is. Maybe they're not very well educated or something like that. But I don't... I don't see the Australian male cricketers...
Too much sun is what it is.
Yeah, too much sun and a poor education, too much 4x. That's the most likely thing. I mean, like this generation are slightly more moderate, but occasionally the mask does slip, and you realise that in 10 years' time, Pat Cummins is going to be on the TV chatting all sorts of shit. I think they do overreact. I think that is what you're supposed to do if you're an Australian man. You're supposed to be all in one way or the other. It's either the greatest thing ever or it's the worst thing ever. The greatest team ever or the shittest team of all time. The greatest batter we've ever seen. The wokest team, the least woke team. Like you can't.
Oh, that was.
There is no middle ground. Exactly, mate. Yeah, like it's.
And now they love Comdog, don't they? They hated him because he was a.
Yes.
Maybe the women and the men should get paid the same. How dare you? Maybe the planet is burning. We should do something about it. But now he's won the Ashes. Like he's won the World Cups. He's done this. Like
same for Mitch Marsh. He went through that cycle. They hated him. Then he had a good Ashes. Did some runs in the T20 World Cup. Won Australian Cricketer of the Year. Did a joke about beer. National treasure. Like it's the thing you go through. Dave Warner. They're kind of on the fence about him. Then they liked him. Then he did sandpaper and he was a national pariah. The Prime Minister was giving speeches about how much of a dickhead he was. Came back, did some runs, won an Ashes, beat Bradman's score. He's 2 years away from being a national treasure. He's still playing, so he's not quite made it there, but he will be. There's no. They aren't.
His autobiography comes
they
out.
aren't a shades of grey nation. They aren't a shades of grey nation, and I think in a way that's why the Border-Gavaskar Trophy does produce a lot of entertaining moments, because I think India secretly want to be Australia in cricketing terms. I think they. And it's, it kind of makes sense in a way, doesn't it? Like if you're going to model yourself on a nation, you might as well pick the best one. And if you're not going to do any more analysis of the situation than that, it means you just try and become Australia, doesn't it? And they go out there, Gautam Gambhir at the end of the game. They lose, or maybe in the morning before they lose 3-1, saying that Australians are too soft. It's like, mate, you're losing 3-1. You're kind of being a little bit humiliated by a 19-year-old here. Like, I know he hasn't bashed a century or anything like that, but it's so clear.
Australians are really too soft, and here's the side who literally lost their minds because a man did a ramp shot. A boy.
Yeah, like Gautam Gambhir. I bet he has a picture of Crocodile Dundee on his bedroom wall.
Mate,
he
he's
really,
got-
really obviously takes inspiration from Australia.
a whole
And so I
basement.
think so does Kohli.
Gautam Gambhir is
A
a
whole
whole
basement.
basement dedicated to revenge on people that have crossed him.
I thought you were going to say Crocodile
Guaranteed.
Dundee.
No, not Crocodile Dundee.
Um,
unless
I think
unless he didn't like Crocodile Dundee, and then that is part of his revenge basement.
I think revenge is quite an Australian thing. To hold a grudge, to be all in. Like, that man
Well,
wronged me.
that's
So
why Gambhir's the
therefore, I
guy.
will dedicate my life to wronging him. That's how Australia works as a culture. Yeah, if you
it's
are
a pretty
Australian,
bad year then for it, isn't he? Because he lost to the Kiwis, and Australia never lose to the Kiwis.
that is, absolute shocker for Gautam Gambhir. He's going to have to reconsider his whole Crocodile Dundee based world view. And if you are Australian, you're listening to this and you think this is just like three English guys taking the piss, like you are right. Yeah. But look at yourselves. This is a little bit how your nation works, particularly when it comes to cricket. Like you don't have nuance. It's just not something that you do well.
That's an
like
all-time classic. Jack, I think the last
English
10 minutes is an all-time classic of you. That is of the podcast history, absolute all-time classic analysis of Australia. Very good.
But that is why it was good, and that's why the series was good, even though the series probably wasn't quite as good as Australia.
Yeah, it was narrative and drama, wasn't it? That's what led the series. It was.
And why did Australia win? Should we do that? Let's go back to cricket. Go on, Ross. You have to say the last point on general cultural subtext, and then we will post that thesis.
Did you like that Gavaskar, of which the trophy is named after him, did not get asked to present the trophy?
No, I've got a lot of time for that. Why would you want him presenting the trophy? Like, it's honour enough, isn't it, having the trophy named after you? Like, we don't need.
I like that.
I mean, he'd have gone full like Narendra Modi on the World Cup final, like just walk off. Here you go, I'm off. Like, who delivered the trophy and then run away, and that would have been worth seeing.
Yeah. Who did the trophy then, Ross?
I don't know. I just saw a clickbait title and thought I'd share it with everyone on the podcast.
Good. We like clickbait.
And Times of India, was it?
Something like
Mosquito.
Yes. Right. So hold on. Let's wrap up on some cricketing points. And why did Australia win the series? In a nutshell, Max. Go on. Give us.
Well, they've got 4 really good seam bowlers, and India have got 1. So that was a fairly big difference. And the other thing is Ross was doing some stuff with batting there. India have got some issues in that middle order. You got Kohli's not firing, Rohit's not firing, and then I mean, the rest are kind of unproven. And I think Australia have got guys like Travis Head.
That's what I was doing.
Oh, that's what that was. Was it T Head? Right, love it. Yeah. Although in fair, after his bumper century, Travis Head did basically nothing. But it didn't matter because the bowlers took over at that point. That's my summary.
Ross, what were your key themes for the series? What will we see next?
What will we see now? I think just the fact that Australia could bat a little bit better. Whilst the bowling is important, they had the runs on the board and could actually attack and do what they needed to do from a fielding position. I do think that they had a better catch percentage as well. There was a few went down, which was a little bit disappointing. There were some key moments where I think Jasprit dropped a couple of catches where it was, again, one of those moments where it could go one way or the other. And so it's all about winning those kind of just key moments in games. And unfortunately, Australia did that on this occasion. So I also think India took a little bit of a transition side. Ashwin retiring mid-series is just as disgraceful as Graham Swan doing it mid-series when England got decimated down under. I think it's quite embarrassing, actually. It's not really the legacy that you should have, but some people think, he's a free thinker. If I'm perfectly honest, I think it was embarrassing. The whole team management of India.
They weren't going to pick him, Ross.
It doesn't matter to me. Your team comes
Graham
first.
Swan just abandoned his post when
team comes first.
Ashwin wasn't going to play.
I think from an India perspective, team comes first. Well, any cricketer, team comes first. Rohit Sharma was a disaster. Like whatever they were doing, it was like completely the most embarrassing series of all time for an India captain. And yeah, overall, the fall of blame has to go to Gautam Gambhir and Rohit Sharma for leading it. So that's why I think Australia won.
All right, last point on then. Who should be fired? Who's retiring? So me and Max, we retired Rohit Sharma on the last podcast.
Yeah, he's gone.
And he
Gambhir's
listened, to be fair.
Gambhir, Kohli,
Yeah,
Gambhir out.
I like
I
Kohli.
vote Gambhir out.
Gambhir's out. Yeah, I vote.
We've got to do one at a time.
He can't survive, can he? He lost 3-0 at home, and now it's just a bit like it's okay losing in Australia, but don't get like your pants pulled down and get embarrassed. And that's what's happened. Like India, Jay Shah, you know what he's like. He doesn't like that embarrassment, and they are an embarrassment to cricket at the moment.
Okay, so that's two. Max, you keeping Gambhir around?
I mean, from a non-India perspective, I might keep him around because it's been quite fun.
I would definitely, yeah. I think
if I'm India, I'm thinking about maybe having a stern word. It's not just like there were moments where India
don't mess with Crocodile Dundee.
There were moments where India were competitive and like they brought in NKR and he did pretty well. Like there've been some green shoots of positivity, but I think the overall, I don't know, the atmosphere feels a bit off. The way that people like, Ashwin, I guess you feel like he had to retire or was retired. That feels like something that hasn't been handled very well. The whole Rohit thing, and then the way they carried themselves on the pitch with the Sam Konstas thing, and kind of from there it kind of escalated, didn't it? It got under their skin, and they carried on, kind of misbehaving and being a bit pathetic, and you could see that they were rattled, and that kind of comes from the top, doesn't it? The way you carry yourselves on the pitch. So I that's a pretty concerning thing from my point of view as well. It's not. It felt a little bit like toys out the pram churlishness rather than like we're trying to dominate you mentally.
It was a bit like that, but I think they were aiming for we're going to try and dominate you mentally.
Yeah, and they took on the wrong people.
Yeah. Go woke, go broke. As they say. This wasn't part of the plan, but I have just noticed that ESPN have got this thing called tournament fan ratings, which I guess is a poll out of 10. So I'm going to throw a few players out there, and I want you to try and guess.
Out of 10. I've just clicked
what the public thought. But don't scroll up and down. Jasprit Bumrah out of 10. What do you think the public thought he achieved?
10.
Yeah, 9.6.
9.6.
I don't know who the people out there who are voting.
Well, Australians. About 3 Australians probably click 1, didn't they?
Usman Khawaja. Virat Kohli. Ross, out of 10. What do you think the public thought he achieved?
3.4.
No, 8.2.
What?
8.2.
What?
That's
it's a fairly Indian product, isn't it? ESPN cricket.
But
he runs in one game though, didn't he? He runs in one game, I think.
That's 0.3 ahead of Pat Cummins, who finished 5th, just slightly behind Mohammad Siraj. I think we can all agree.
Yeah, who did that? Yeah, this is good. All right.
We'll go a little bit.
How many runs
down
did Kohli hit in the series?
He got 100. He got 100.
Yeah, that was good. To be fair, three's a bit harsh then, yeah. So I'd say probably a 5 then.
How many out of 10 do you think Steve Smith got? 200s, 300 odd runs to series, average 34. Not his
4.7.
No,
I reckon he must be like nearly 9. Must be like 8.6, 8.7.
No. 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10 for Steve Smith. Travis Head, 2 centuries, match-winning century, and probably would have been a minute-winning century at Brisbane if not for the rain. And
got Rishabh Pant out at key point, I reckon.
Got Rishabh Pant out as a key point.
Again, that's an 8.5. That is an 8.5 series.
Nah, it's a 6, mate. That's a 6. Good. I think that's a really good one. I'm going to keep an eye on that for future.
Yeah.
Scott Boland averaged 13. He got 6.8.
We didn't score any runs, did he? That's the problem.
He did score some runs. He did score runs at the MCG. Absolutely
He
cracking.
scored some really important runs.
Yeah, and this is really what we're here for. You know, the series. It was definitely very good. 8 out of 10. It was up there.
What do the
with-
fans say?
Yeah, what's the fan rating?
yeah.
1.
8 out of 10. Probably a little bit behind the Ashes in 2023 and the last BGT, and I thought India v England that finished 2-2 was a great series as well. So it's in the category below that, albeit a good series. But it does throw up amazing moments, and I think we've just found another one there with tournament fan ratings, which we'll definitely be revisiting for future series. Rohit Sharma absolutely got panned. 2.7 for Rohit. Like I'd have thought some
Got a lot
Rohit
of love
stands would have at least got him into the sevens.
That's close to Steve Smith, isn't it?
Worse than Steve Smith.
Yeah. It's Glow.
Interesting. We're going to take a quick break, then we're going to come back and we've got a few other little bits to take care of.